Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Vincent Xavier, pastor of New Wine Ministries. Great to be with you today. Happy day after Thanksgiving. They call this a Black Friday. I don't know if that's good or not, but they do call it Black Friday. It's good to be with everyone. I hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving day yesterday. We did. We had a wonderful time. I have some pictures I wanted to actually show you guys of our gathering, but I don't know how to get it off my phone onto the screen. But it was just fun. We had a great time. It was a microcosm of what we experienced during the Feast of Tabernacles, but it was still nonetheless a great time. So I want to share, here's little granddaughter Athena Grace. There she was having a big party out there. I don't know if you can see her. She's modeling, the little girl. And then to see over here, where did we go? So I just thought, hey, let's do show and tell. Here's a pretty good picture. There was a really good one. And this one here, that was the table on the inside, and you do a little enlargement down here. And, we had a really great crew of people. But anyways, kind of hard to tell. The food was incredible. The fellowship was incredible. We just really had a great time. There's another one, a little close up there. And we went out, threw football a little bit, played a little chess, enjoyed the chess game. Been doing good. And hey, Joey Bada, good morning. How are you? Joey, by the way, Joey, did you see what Carol sent to us? Carol sent this, and I wound up sending it to John. You remember John? Forget about it. Remember John? We prayed over him during Tabernacles. Well, Carol, yesterday, here's John Murillo. I sent him this, and I don't know if you knew this or not, but she said she was thinking about us because on this menu of flatbreads, come on now, there it is. Forget about it. There it is. It's a margarita and then a forget about it. And then this was called a forget about it. I sent that to Brother John, and he got a kick out of that, man. He said, LOL, I'll have to try the forget about it recipe. That's funny. So anyways, we had a very, very nice day yesterday. I, in all sincerity, got off the air and want to say good morning, by the way, Monica. God bless you. Monica Lucas 2052. Ooh. That's kind of an inversion from 2025. And Robert Taylor's with us, 8815. You guys got some new numbers out there. I love it. Robert, good morning to you, sir. And you're our two West Coast listeners early in the morning. But yesterday, I went on the air. I did a little Thanksgiving thing and having just a little bit of direction of where we were going to be going. And I'll be honest, in my heart, I got off the radio yesterday and I thought, wow, that was a little rough around the edges. It was actually worse than that for me. I thought, God, our Father, the one that is at the center of all we do, or should be at the center of all we do. He's God, right? And there's nothing impossible with him. And because in my little tiny mind, in my little tiny brain, the portion that I have that God has touched, and things I read in the Bible and the things I see, and you look through a biblical lens. Jesus said, look at the signs of the times, and you should know some stuff. And my message yesterday was not just a smooth, happy Thanksgiving gratitude kind of message. It was laced within it, but it was also a very hard message. It was, relating to Jeremiah chapter 2, and it was relating to some of the prophetic things going on in our country. And, on the eve of Thanksgiving, 2 National Guardsmen were shot. Pam Bondi saying we're going to stretch them and execute them and give them the full weight of the law. And, we have all this stuff. The guy was from Pakistan that shot them. And I know that's a very small thing. And, in and of itself, it happens all the time, all over the world. But I have to say, I spent most of my day yesterday, just searching out in the inner parts of my being, because, why on Thanksgiving would it be such a hard message? Why would it be so difficult? The proclamations of, things that are hard. It would be so easy to just turn it around, because we saw, Patricia and I last night at the end of the day, we saw 2 movies. And one of them was called I Can Only Imagine. I don't know if you've ever seen it or not. It's about a group called Mercy Me. It is Dennis Quaid is in the movie. We watched it. I've seen it probably 3 times already, but it came on after this other movie we saw, which was, I believe, about the life of 12 people that were, they didn't know each other, but how by the Spirit of God became all interconnected. I would highly recommend that movie to anybody. And what happened was, after we had our Thanksgiving Day, my daughter, my granddaughter, we went shooting at the target range. I got to play chess with some friends, and the things that we did, and it was just wonderful, fellowshipping, breaking bread. There was a good calm, just a nice meal for Thanksgiving. And yet, at beyond that, as it was all wrapping up, all day long, even during my meal, I thought, wow, why didn't you just speak on, happy things and beautiful things? Because, you love happy things. You love being happy. You love the prosperity of God in your own life and the blessing of the Lord and all of that. So, why go in the direction that you did? And I felt led by the Spirit to do it, and I did it. But it wasn't just like a happy thing for me, where you get out there and you talk what we did yesterday. And if you didn't hear the message, maybe you'll go back and listen. Maybe don't, whatever. But I knew that God was good. And then watching these 2 movies, I sat there for about, I guess, 2.5 hours, just bawling my eyes out, just because how good God is. And we have this, the movie was about people helping people. And I thought, in the environment that we're in right now, and we understand what's going on in the world, that we still can be activated to help other people. And homeless people, one of the girls in the movie, she had been pregnant and some bad things died. I mean, it's just an incredible movie. I believe, or do you believe? You've got to watch the movie. It is incredible. Do you believe? Now, and I put it on PureFlix. We have PureFlix, and that's what we like to watch. And we have VidAngel, so we have no curse TV, that kind of thing. So it gets out all the junk you don't want in it. But there was no reason to do that. It was an incredible Christian movie. Do you believe? And so last night I went to bed with that in my spirit, and I was thinking, God, I know you're this good. And I know there's nothing impossible for you. And I know you could change the course of history. You can do anything. There's nothing you can't do. And because your gospel is so powerful and so great, and yet the message that we proclaim, the message that I proclaim, the message that I believe that you gave to me was to warn the nation, to let it know that America has crossed the point of no return. There'll be no repentance. It's going to continue into the places that we see it going. But it's not the preferred message, of a person's heart. And if you're wrong, that just doubles up, because now you're not being honest with people, and then you've deceived yourself. And it's not an easy call, right? It's not an easy call, but I see the balance, and I see the silver lining in the message of where nations are going, because it is biblical. I mean, it's going into a one world government. It's going into, depopulation. It's going into all the things, the mark of the beast. We know that it has to eventually arrive there until the Lord returns and sets up his millennial kingdom. And so we know that that's a reality. We just happen to live in an age that is different than any other age before us, that Israel became a nation, technology has exploded, and yada, 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 go down the road of all the things that are going on that tell us that this is where we are. But in the midst of it, the silver lining again, the golden thread, in the midst of everything, there's still work to do. And we have, I think I've shared this before with people, we have an organization. Our church is different. I grew up with my pastor believing that the church was the head and not the tail. And so he was not going to subject the church to governmental oversight. And the way that you do that with a church is by getting a 501c3 nonprofit public benefit corporation. So we went out of our way, and we found where I was ordained 3 times into the ministry after Pastor Paul had passed away. I was ordained by 3 different ministries. One of them was very large, the Roses of Sharon, Pastor Donna Bartram. It was Independent Assemblies of God. Not that we're connected to any particular denomination, but This one, she was concerned for me. She knew where I was going, and she knew I was going to get out there, and she was concerned that we would be protected. So I got connected with that ministry, and it's an independent Assemblies of God. It has a 501c3, but it's grandfathered. It's grandfathered in from the 1940s, and the rules are totally different. It affords zero invasion from the government of the United States. It's got 70 lawyers protecting this particular way of doing things. And so we have been connected to that, but we don't even use that. We just kind of go and do what we do in the ministry. But what we do have, what my pastor, R. Paul Carroll, had formulated before he had passed away, is an organization called United Christian Charities, or UCC. And when he had passed away, it just went down and it was laying dormant. And I was on a long water fast. I wound up fasting on water for 17 days. And on the 13th day of my water fast, I was in the garage. We were living in a 1,200 square foot little condominium. Patricia and Danielle and I were in our little 1,200, but we had to go down the steps and outside, and there was a garage. And I used to go in there, and that was my office, was in the garage. And I'm a younger pastor, and so on and so forth. But anyways, on the 13th day of this, I discovered some of the boxes where Paul was really going after United Christian Charities. His ultimate vision for United Christian Charities was to begin something called a UCC TLC. United Christian Charities would sponsor a teen leadership center. Paul grew up on the farms of Illinois. He had been in the CIA, and I could go on. His resume is incredible. But the one thing he noticed as he was growing up is that there were tons of programs. Now, you got to go back again. We're going back almost 35 years now. Okay, times have changed. But at that time, there were a lot of programs like Pastor David Wilkerson, Teen Challenge for troubled kids. But there weren't many Christian organizations for the Daniels, the Shadrachs, the Meshachs, the Abednegos. And Paul's desire was to formulate a teen leadership center where young men and women would come and do a 10-month program, and they would be taught trades and discipline, and they would be raised up. Now, Paul was this kind of a man to do this, raised up in leadership, where they would come forth, and then they would be released into their sphere of influence. So his vision was to raise up TLCs, teen leadership centers, across the world. And he was about to step down from his pastoral calling and go full blown into United Christian Charities. One of the things he did do, and I've mentioned this before, is that he leased out Jack Murphy Stadium in San Diego. And Jack Murphy Stadium is now, I think, Qualcomm Stadium. It's where the San Diego Chargers and the San Diego Padres used to play their baseball and football games. Well, Pastor Paul knew nothing about the Feast of Tabernacles, but he read about this event on the 7th month, and he was looking at the Gregorian calendar. So he went out of his way. He was an entrepreneur before he became a Christian, and definitely before a pastor. And he leased out that for 7 days. And he welcomed churches from Mexico, all throughout the United States, to come and do what John 17 said to do: be one. And he was just into the message of unity. Jesus prayed, Father, make them one as you and I are one. Let them be perfect in one. And so he felt that was a Feast of Tabernacles, and he did it. And he came into a lot of opposition because the other pastors that were there that had, clout, Paul was coming out of nowhere. Who are you? What are you doing calling everybody together? And it was that type of thing. But he accomplished what he did. And he went through with the, what was it called? So it was a celebration of the Feast of Tabernacles. We're going way back. He did the first one in 1986. And I've told this whole story. So his desire was this. So on my 13th day, TLCs was for him, Teen Leadership Centers. And on the 13th day of this water fast, I got all this information and I began to write. And I felt it was very inspired. And I wrote out my vision for United Christian Charities. And I was writing out that it would be utilized for disaster relief, homeless people, widows, and orphans. And so I wrote this out, and because it was dead in the water, I presented it and I took it to the courts, and I don't remember everything you had to do, but it became alive again. So I had basically resurrected United Christian Charities. And then I worked with the fire department. I remember Jamie Zucker was one of the leads over in the fire department in San Diego. And we had these big conferences, fundraisers, where everybody would come to a beautiful dinner at a little 5-star resort. And the firemen would talk about the need of having a 3-day pack in the trunk of everybody's car. And they were just talking from the perspective of, first responders and firemen and all of that. And so I was working it, really going for United Christian Charities. And my vision, I remember, was to have a warehouse, a massive 40,000 square foot warehouse, and semi-tractor trailer trucks that would back into the little ports where they would get loaded. And the 40,000 square foot warehouse would have food and clothing and everything you could imagine, that when a disaster struck somewhere in the country, that those trucks would be filled up, kind of like Operation Blessing. But I'm doing this way back when, nearing 30 years ago now. And the vision was to get those trucks out, and then van with 7 or 8 people would follow those trucks. They would show up at the disaster areas, and then the people in the vans would get out and they would distribute the goods. They would distribute Bibles and blankets and food and the needs of the community that was struck. People would be there for counseling and comfort, and maybe say not a word, but just be there. So this was my vision. And then, of course, go out and feed the homeless, take care of the hungry, and then obviously take care of the widows. In fact, the widows and the orphans, I wanted to, in my mind, call it the widow's mite. But it wasn't the MITE that we find in Scripture about the widow's mite. It was about the widow's mite, MIGHT. So my vision was the widow's mite, and then, of course, the orphans, and then the homeless. But the primary thing for me was disaster relief. Now, United Christian Charities was there. It's alive again. It's breathing. I'm moving in that direction. But then all of a sudden, right around 2001, 1996, let me go back even a little further. What Patricia and I had done by the grace of God is that we had started churches across the country. In 1994, we were blessed with an RV, and we took the RV and we traveled across the country, and we went from Jersey City. We went to Winston-Salem, North Carolina, Virginia Beach, Virginia. We were in, Jacksonville, Florida. And what had happened, we weren't even trying. We were just showing up at different places, and one thing would happen after another. And before you knew it, we were in people's homes teaching Bible studies and deliverance. And the people loved what we were doing, so they would gather together. And then we knew we had to be back in San Diego to pastor the church God had brought us to. So the deacons that had been raised up under Paul and Patricia's mantle before I became the pastor, those deacons, I went back, released them, ordained them to go to these homes in these different places in the country to do home fellowships, because I was all about home fellowships. I believed, because I had been born again in a home, I was never a part of an organized religious church, the power of God would come into the home fellowships, and the intimacy and the teaching and it's just such a different thing. So I am still and was all about home fellowships, where you establish elders in every city and pastors and teachers, and the fivefold ministry operating with homes. And we had at one time in the home over 70 people would go into this 3-story home in Escondido, California, gorgeous home with a fireplace, and the candle was on the mantle of the fireplace, fulfilling a prophecy from 1982. And we would go into that house, and it would shake with our worship and our songs and our vibration. And people would be sitting on the steps and on the floors, and they came out with rings in their nose and skateboards in their hands, and that grunge look thing. And people from everywhere, very mature people. There were people that were sheriffs in the sheriff department, and they were scientists and doctors and lawyers, and but it was a beautiful group of people that were coming out of the mainstay religion because they weren't getting fed. And now in this environment, they were getting fed like crazy. And then people like me that were coming out of just really bad stuff with a few other friends of mine that needed deliverance and healing and restoration and a hands-on pastoral father in the spirit. Everybody was getting it. So We were doing this now. Pastor Paul had passed away. Patricia and I have been married, and we're going across the country, and we're showing up, and we're establishing home fellowships. And then we would gather every year, all the different home fellowships that were established. We would go to Virginia Beach at the Founders Inn, where Paul Petit, who I interview oftentimes, the gentleman that led me to faith in Jesus Christ by his conduct and by his walk with the Lord, well, he was working for CBN way back then. And so we would go there, and we would get a blessing from the CBN, and all the churches would come together, and we showed up at times. The places were packed out, and the spirit of joy was everywhere. And we would come together for the Feast of Tabernacles at the Founders Inn in CBN. It was an incredible story. We had done so much. It's just mind-blowing just to rehearse it a little bit. But in 1996, I'm getting intimate with you now. We were confronted because I made a terrible mistake. And in 1996, I met a man in Florida who was the most brilliant, intellectual man. And the writings that he had written, I just absolutely was connecting to. I loved it. It was just brilliant. But my wife warned me. Patricia said to me, Vincent, be careful. There's no love in this man. He's intellectual. He's like, I guess, what we would call today, and you'll never know who this is, and it doesn't matter. He may not even be alive anymore. This is a long time ago, but almost 30 years ago. There's no love in him. He's intellectual. He would be called like a modern-day Pharisee. You just, it's all there. It's incredible, but it's not accurate because the love is not there. Well, I ignored the advice of my beautiful wife, Patricia, and I brought him into our work and sent him to all the fellowships. And by the end of 1996, every ounce of work that we did was broken and scattered. We lost it. The churches were shut down, and the pastors had gone. And it was a very, very difficult time in our life. We had invested much in doing all of that work. We had traveled. We had given our time. We just done it. So around 1997, 1998, we were back in San Diego. We were pastoring the church that we had there. We had this big conversation with all the different pastors and the way that things got in and the way things went. It was a brutal, brutal time. But anyways, my point is, it was after that, when I was in that long fast, that I resurrected United Christian Charities. Long story short, we are now in Arkansas. We've been here for 17 years. This coming July will be a complete 17 years. We got here in 2009. We got here in July of 2009. So yeah, 17 years coming in July. And we have alive and well United Christian Charities. Our dear friend, Susan, she does that type of thing, and she helped me to get UCC back in order. And while we were here, we started a food pantry in Decatur. And then from the food pantry, we developed where people donate their clothes and their goods. And we had a store. And the purpose of the store was to raise the funds for the food pantry so that we could feed the people. Now, the estimates of what we did in 2 years was fed over 50,000 people. 50,000 right here we were able to feed. And the store was in operation. The pantry was there. And then we didn't have enough help. And everything shut down again. But United Christian Charities still exist. I'm going back to my story, how I began the broadcast today, that I was watching this movie last night, and it was about people helping people, even in the midst of troublesome times, and that we really shouldn't be sitting on our hands waiting for things to happen. We should be proactive in our lives, and we should be doing something. And last night, as I was just going through what I was going through, watching these things, I realized we need to activate once again United Christian Charities. And so we have this 501c3. It's a nonprofit public benefit corporation with a tax-exempt status from the IRS called United Christian Charities. It's designed and signed off on and ready to go. It doesn't need anything else for anybody that wants to feed the homeless. They could start a homeless shelter. They could start a food pantry, widows and orphans, buy some land. This was my vision. Buy some land, build some structures, get the widows and the orphans a place to go. We've had people that used to do that type of thing for pregnant women that had nowhere to go. So houses were built to take them in so they didn't have an abortion. They were taken care of. So there are good works that can still be done. Now, remember, he prepared us so that we would be zealous of good works. We're not saved by works. We know that, but we have been designed for good works. We should all, as Christian men and women, do good works, whatever they are. And so we have this organization, and right now it's my thirst is kind of going again. It's like, okay, disaster relief. Do you realize that if we would have done this, now where I missed it was around 2001, when we came out of all those things that happened in the 1990s and we survived the Holocaust, if you will. And I don't mean to say anything that would, offend anybody, but to us, it was a pretty massive time, not in comparison to the Holocaust, but it was brutal. And but we survived it. We got through it, and God continued to move, and here we are today. But it was at that time when I was wanting to go full board with United Christian Charities, because I really did foresee a time of disasters. I read Matthew 24 that there was going to be earthquakes and famines and pestilences and all these things. So I just knew we would be moving into a season of disasters, and we should be ahead of it. We should be disaster relief. But then in 2001, I was basically, and there was a lot that went on before this, I was taken away from a vision for United Christian Charities. And I met Bill and Marcia Burns up in Kremlin, Colorado. It's where I met Benjamin Baruch. He was up there as one of the speakers. I was up there as a speaker. And we kind of connected, and we both realized what time it was. And I gave my life to declaring and proclaiming the end times. And now I'm suddenly in this realm. And it was on September 3rd, 2001, when after a meeting in Kremlin, Colorado, that I went down to Denver with Michael and Paul. We met with our brother John, who worked on the multi-million-dollar flight simulators. And at 3:00 in the morning, it was my turn to fly. I got in my plane. I flew out of Jersey City. I went over Hoboken, over the Hudson River, into New York City, around Central Park. I banked my plane south. I saw the Twin Towers, and I, on purpose, flew my plane into the Twin Towers. I've told this story many times. Well, it was at that moment, 8 days later, I was on radio in La Jolla, California on K-Praise, and it happened. Planes were flown into the Twin Towers. And so, of course, that shook my world. And that's when God said, I want you to pay attention to everything that comes out of your mouth, every little game you do, everything you do and say, I want you to pay attention. So that's what I've been doing for the last 24 years, is watching, listening, and UCC took a back seat. Well, I've done as much proclaiming as I possibly can in 24 years. I have told this country and the world, I believe, what the Bible says about what time it is, which is always the prophetic mantle to declare to God's people what time it is. We've brought all the pieces together, and time will tell, but we know it's a totally different country than we first began to prophesy and to watch. So, what am I getting at? You can't really say much more. I mean, you could document the things that are going to happen today, the things that are going to happen tomorrow, but you get locked in. But last night when I saw Do You Believe, the movie, I just, in my spirit, it's a longing to activate. Now, do you need a corporation to go feed the hungry? Nope. Do you need an organization to go give some widow some help? Nope. Patricia and I, for years, I've watched my wife go sit down in a Waffle House. We were in the Waffle House somewhere in Virginia many, many years ago, middle of winter. She had this gorgeous wool red coat with black lining on it. And we were sitting there, and the woman walked in and said, "Oh my gosh, what a beautiful coat." And of course, we left the Waffle House with Patricia giving that coat to that woman. And we've seen, we're not going to boast about anything. I'm boasting about what Patricia did, but you don't need an organization, right? But we have one. And in this organization called United Christian Charities, it's designed, if there were fundraisers, to go in and create fundraisers to raise funds, right? And by raising the funds, you now distribute those funds. It's kind of like the book of Acts when they sold land and then they took the price of the land and they laid it at the apostles' feet, and the apostles oversaw the finances and then distribution was made. Well, in my pastor's mind, United Christian Charities was to be that distribution center. And it was to be a storage facility of data, information. Paul's vision was huge, way beyond mine. But I now understood that United Christian Charities would be a place where funds could be raised, and then people that had visions and desired to do certain things, they could be funded and distribution could be made. And none of it's really happened the way that it could. I was looking at a bank statement the other day for United Christian Charities, and I haven't looked at it for years, to be honest with you. The last time I saw it was like $600 was in this account because you had to keep it going. Well, I looked the other day, there was $3,000 in United Christian Charities. And I'm like, where did that come from? I have no idea. Even right now, I have no idea how $3,000 got into the United Christian Charities. So I'm thinking last night, man, what could I do with that to do the things that need to be done? How do we feed somebody? How do we clothe somebody? How do we put a turkey dinner or a Christmas gift or something for people? How do we help? How do we raise funds? How do we fill it up? How do we start a disaster relief center? And what I have heard, and please don't take me wrong, I've done it myself at times, but so many things that I've wanted to do, I've held back because, well, there won't be enough time to do it. There won't be enough time. And with the way that I preach, with the urgency that God put in me to preach with urgency, yeah, it's like it's all happening yesterday. It's happening right now. It's going to happen tomorrow. And so the tendency is to, well, don't do anything. Just get everything. But I've always said, in fairness, work while there's light, because the darkness will come when no man will be able to work. And so I've never told people it's too late, but I know in the atmosphere, it's all around. And we get into these prophetic things. Okay, in the spring, in the winter, it's going to happen here and there. And man, we've been through that enough. And so here we are. We live in a world that is what it is. Is there time? Well, every time I think there is and I want to go there, something else happens. And it's like, okay, I can't invest into this time with United Christian Charities. I have to focus over here. But our ministry right now is in a very specific place. God has brought Patricia and I and New Wine Ministries and all that we do to a very particular place. And we trust God that where we are and the things that we have been through are all from Him. And we give God all the glory. It's all disciplinary. It's all training. It's all refinement. It's all been good testing to test the metal of our hearts, where we stand. What will we do in tough times? And we've been brought to this moment, and it's like, okay, Lord, what do you want us to do? I know my vision. I want to go buy 60 acres of land in a very specific place, and I want to get it ready for an end time ark. We've done it here. The prototype is here. That's my vision. I want to do that. But I also want to feed the hungry, take care of the homeless, take care of widows, take care of orphans. There are a lot of things I would like to do, but I'm one man and I'm a pastor, and we're sitting here right now, and I almost feel like we're on a launching pad. And it's kind of like the tree that God trims. He says, I'll trim the tree. I'll remove some of the branches. I'll do these things. I want to get you so I can release you, because we do have a desire to go anywhere the Lord wants us to go. I mean, we're wide open to do anything that God wants us to do. We're not stuck in a formula. We're not stuck in a box. We're just like in waiting. And while we've been waiting, we've been undergoing a tremendous amount of, like everybody else in this world, of just going through life on a day-to-day basis. And here we are. And I feel like we're about to be launched. And I don't know where the launching is. I don't know if this launching is going to create an environment where this ministry, being on radio, Facebook, and all that, shuts down so that I could concentrate on something else. I don't know if God's going to launch me to another country or another continent to preach the gospel. I don't know what he wants to do yet, and that's it. But United Christian Charities, after seeing the movie last night, kind of flared up in my spirit again. That there's work to do. There are hurting people everywhere. There really are. There are needs everywhere. And with the wealth that is flying around this country and around the world right now, with all the vision and all the desire that we have to serve the Lord, to take care of his people and to build and do all the things we want to do, it's interesting to me that we cannot or have not been able to do some things because that flow of financial prosperity hasn't flown to the degree that we would like it to accomplish a lot of different things. Now, everything that God has ever put in our heart to do, he has provided for, and he's done a magnificent job. And I give God praise for his provision through the years to do the things that we've done. And for those of you that came up here for the Feast of Tabernacles, you see what we have done with what God has given. And so we have evidence that we have not squandered what God has blessed with, but we have done what he called us to do. But there's so much more. And so now we're waiting, and we're in this place. What does God want us to do? How does it get done? And I kind of believe that United Christian Charities I think there's some very intelligent people out there, maybe fundraisers that are out there, or people that have a heart to start a food pantry, to start a little store where people can give their donations, like the Goodwill, and then utilize that store to raise funds to get the food to give to the families that are at their wits end or whatever. They just need that extra help. And we say things like this: well, there's already a ton of programs like that. There's Operation Blessing. There's Salvation Army. Churches have pantries everywhere. But I always refer to the story about the family that was visited by a corporation way back in the 1950s and 60s that were told that they had an opportunity to invest in a hamburger company. And their response to this CEO was, "We don't need another hamburger company. There's hamburger companies everywhere." And of course, that hamburger company was a place called McDonald's when it was first coming out. And just because everybody else is doing something doesn't mean that you and I shouldn't do it from our unique personalities, our unique skills and giftings. And there are some people out there that probably could get on board with a United Christian Charities and have a vision and say, this is my desire. I want to start a food pantry. I want to feed the hungry. I want to take care of widows. I want to take care of orphans. I'm not looking for, in the first place, just a job. I have a vision that I want to work for, that in that vision that I believe that God has put in me, in my compassionate heart, to reach out to other people. How about battered and abused women? When we were in California, how we saw women getting beaten and thrown out of their cars, and we rescue them and bring them in. They would come in with cuts down their faces. And, we saw a need there, battered and abused women. We have homeless teenagers living under bridges. There's works, and we all want to go somewhere in the world, right? But right here in our own backyard, there are needs everywhere. There's drug addiction. There's all kinds of stuff. There's sex trade trafficking going on right here in Northwest Arkansas. Jenny Sori tells us the story all the time when she visits us. There are people that are helping, but it's nowhere near what the need is, right? So I'm here. I'm in this place thinking, okay, I don't know what to do. I know I have a vision. I have the vision, but I don't know how to build the vision. I have the vision, but it requires, God gave a vision to Moses. Moses, I want you to build a tabernacle, and I want you to go tell the people. to supply the need, build this tabernacle. So the people were giving, and then there were builders. They were experts in their craft, and they would come along and they would build. So the provision was there, the workmen were there, the vision was clear, and things got done. There was a tabernacle, very useful to God, Solomon's temple, and we could go on down the list. Everything we see is basically coming out of the visionary heart of somebody, and it's always about getting it done. So what do we do with United Christian Charities? United Christian Charities can be funded to build a disaster relief center. It can be funded to build an ark. It can be funded. That organization is in the world. It's meant to be in the world as an umbrella, as a covering to take care of things that the church wants to do. You and I are the church. We're people. We have the heart. We have the desire. And I'm just laying this forth, today because I just believe there's work to do. And I know people are working all over this world, and I know things are getting done. I have no desire that I'm aware of to go out and build a church building and go out there and, bring people to the church. Although as a pastor, there's no doubt we would love to see our church grow and function. And I think, and I've been told prophetically by many people, that in these days when things begin to go the direction they are, that God will, he's going to multiply and add, and we'll be ready, more ready then. Whatever that looks like, I don't know. But that's kind of my story here about what is in my heart of what I'd like to do in this season of my life. And I don't know how it all works. I could simply share the vision. I could tell you all the things we'd like to do. I know where my primary heart is. I know primarily where I want to do what I want to do. And it requires finances. I mean, if I had finances, I would go buy that land right now, but I don't. And I trust the Lord. There's a reason why I haven't, but I know it will come in God's due season if that's what he wants. I just don't know why God would put something in a man's belly and make, not everybody's called to build an ark, right? I mean, how many, I could count on one hand the people I've heard that are actually out there preparing for the last days arks where people will come in, the door will be shut, and they'll be able to ride out the storm for a few years. I don't know too many people that do that because not everybody's called to do it, but I was called to do it and I've done it, not even knowing what I was doing. I certainly wasn't qualified. And I've done it because people came along, they heard the vision and they helped. And we've done something and it works. So that's my job. And also raising up and preaching and teaching, which I love to do. That's the ultimate of my heart, is to preach the gospel, the ultimate primary thing in my life. God's blessed me to do that, and I love to do it. But I just feel something complementing that with more action, more work. So I don't know. Do you want to start a food pantry? Do you want to start a homeless shelter? Do you want to, what's the vision? How do we put it together? Well, our ministry has this, and it's available. And I've been talking to an individual about it. And I don't know where to start with it. And I appreciate your prayers for United Christian Charities, because through it, those skilled builders, those skilled fundraisers, you would just fill United Christian Charities. And because it's nonprofit, we've never taken a paycheck from it. We've never received money from it for ourselves. It's nonprofit. You fill it up and then you distribute and then you do what you do. And then they say there's all kinds of little benefits people get from the nonprofits, and there's 20% that people will get to the organization itself. And that's all available, and people can, find themselves doing a work and being funded for that work. And I know that's a legal way to go, and that's what people do. Me, just fill it up and let's distribute it out and let's get things done. So that's my day after Thanksgiving thought. I'm going to take a peek over here and see what's going on in the chat room. Okay, so Scott Freeze. Hey, Scott, good to see you again. Good morning, family. Joey Bada LOLing. I'm not sure what that LOL was about, Joe, but I think it was a good one. Probably about the forget about a pizza. Good movies. Love it. Yeah, you're going to love that one, Robert. Get the Do You Believe? Man, it's just amazing. If you don't get moved on that, I don't know what will move you. Amuna, wow, no idea. Do you know Mason ties to that? I don't know what that's talking about. Mason ties. Tyree Filio Neva Grayson. I'm not sure what that is, but good morning. Mason's converted public, CBN, heavy Mason ties. Oh, wow. No, that's not accurate. There may have been, I know Pat Robertson was, accused of being part of the Knights of Malta and all these different things. Paul Petit's hands are cleaner than probably anybody listening right now. He's not a Mason, and the ties had no influence over his life. CBN was a good works ministry. There's no doubt about it. So CBN, okay, we're going to do that. We'll get this out of here. And this is part of the problem. People make these statements, and they make them as though they're the absolute truth, and it's because something they heard, but they've never actually gone into the organizations and talked to the people and found out where they were. So you go over here. I see Kevin's with us this morning. Yeah, we're just going to get rid of a lot of those little comments. They are not necessary for what we're talking about, because may we have the website to UCC? We don't have a website, UCC. I think we probably should. I need to talk to Susan. Until garbage out. No, it's not that. The 501c3s are not evil in and of themselves, especially when they're under a grandfather clause. So UCC, do we have a UCC website? Let's see. And this is how disconnected it's been for me. I'm going to ask somebody right now, Susan, who's put everything together. I do not believe that we do. Here's Sue. Good morning, Sue, does UCC have a website? Okay, I'll let you know in just a minute. All right, so, well, how do you donate to United Christian Charities? Well, that's a great question too. I don't know how I don't know where the $3,000 came from that went into it. There's a bank account that I know, and we'd have to find out and be more, accurate, and every I dotted and every T crossed. Wait for Sue to give me some heads up on this. And we'll figure out how to do that as well. So how do you blend this all together on this day? In about 10 minutes, I'm going to be heading out. I've got a friend. We're going to go do some moving stuff around and about in some storage units for some other friends. And so I'm going to be heading out there. What is this all about? I don't know. Today's today, tomorrow will be tomorrow. Robert Taylor, there are billionaires that are being challenged to give their money away to charity. It might be a good step. Robert, take the step, man, for us. Go get it. And this is what I'm really getting at. If it's in your heart, go for it. You want to be a fundraiser and you want to go talk to those billionaires. Robert said the billionaires that are being challenged to give their money away. I believe that, but it's who can go and influence the billionaires to give into a United Christian charity that is going to reach out to widows and orphans. A lot of people say, don't put Christian on it. Well, I'm not going to hide our faith. And I know there's wisdom by, this, that, and the other thing. The bad guys, they hide their charitable names with their evil agendas, and they use it for different purposes that are not good. We've seen a lot of that. So I'm just going to go out with it with United Christian Charities. That's the original name. That's the vision. So go get it. Go get it. And we would say, yeah, do it. And Boxer Mama. All right. Not sure who Boxer Mama is. Come on. Right. I don't know. Monica Lou says. So there you have it. United Christian Charities, filled with potential. Will it ever do good works the way it was intended to do? Time will tell. We'll see after this conversation. Do we have a lot of work to do? Yep, we have a lot of work to do. Is it in our own backyard? Yep, it's in our own backyard. Are we in the end times? Absolutely, beyond the shadow of a doubt. Are difficult days coming? Absolutely, beyond the shadow of a doubt. Will there be more disasters in our nation, like hurricanes and floods? Absolutely, beyond the shadow of a doubt. Should we have a disaster relief United Christian Charities arm? Absolutely. Should we have a warehouse with 40,000 square feet of nothing but provision and trucks to go to the disaster sites? Absolutely, beyond the shadow of a doubt. Should there be vans with people wearing their UCC jackets, showing up with their training to go out there and show compassion and love and help get things done? Absolutely. Is there time? I don't know. I have no idea. I know there's today, and I know that while it's day, we work. Is it time right now to build another ark in a specified location? Absolutely. With everything we're hearing about the way that meats are growing and food and the diminishing of quality and high prices, man, to have a community of people, many different communities where you have your own cattle, your own chickens, your own dairy cows, you grow your own foods in good soil, in greenhouses, you have your own water flowing on your land. I can't imagine anything other. It just is about the people. It's about the people being like-minded and getting along. And people sometimes are the biggest challenge in the world because that's just the way it is. And no matter what, God's people have the greatest potential to do the greatest things and to glorify and honor the King, Jesus Christ. Does Jesus want us to do any of this? Isn't that the great question? Does the Holy Spirit want us to do any of this? Or should we just kind of ignore everything, sit back and talk about it all the time? Well, we're doers. We have done and we will continue to do. And if you want to support our vision, then help. That's all I can say. Help. And I'm not asking people to, put themselves in an uncomfortable position. I have friends all the time around me that say, man, I want to sow into that. I'm like, no, I don't want you to. I don't want you to. What I desire is for Lord God to go down to the lake and get a fish that has a gold coin in his mouth. May the Spirit of God go fishing and bring the gold coin and fund the work that needs to be done. Not at the pain of anybody. Yes, there's sacrificial giving. Yes, giving is sacrificial, but you can't outgive God. The widow's mite, she gave more than all. I mean, there's a huge place for that kind of going, but man, I would prefer the gold coin in the fish's mouth. Is there a big fish out there that could write off a check for everything we want to do and activate it? Good, but you got to have the infrastructure. See, with the land, it's there. It's ready. It's got power and it's ready to be built. So you got to buy the land. First thing, buy the land before somebody else does, right? So that's always the key. That needs to be done now. Buy the land now. Then start bringing the builders. The power's already in there. There's a well already dug. There's already a water source going through the property. There's all kinds of room for cattle and growing. It's all there in a perfect spot. So that's the first step. Then you have to bring everybody for the community to be built like we did up here on the ark. You got to see it. It's possible. You got to see it. And then you build your community and you grow from there. So yeah, is it what Jesus wants us to do? Is there a better thing to do than buy land and build Christian communities? Is there a better thing to do? Or should we just do nothing and kind of just stay where we are, ride out the storm and hope for the best? I don't know. I mean, I know in my heart what we've done and where we are. But does Jesus want us to do this? Would you pray? Would you pray for us that in our waiting, we're like on a launching pad? It's like we can't go in 7 different directions. What is the direction of this ministry? We're still here. We're still valid. The anointing has remained. The gospel is preached. The people are for real. The message is genuine. The challenges are all for refinement. So now what would God do after all these years of this moment? Where are we going now? And only God knows. And I trust him. What is the next step? What is the launching? Where are we going? I know we go from strength to strength, glory to glory, faith to faith. I know that we're ever increasing in knowledge and glory and power and strength in the kingdom of God. So where do we go now? What do we do now? What are you going to do with your life? There's needs everywhere. And yet, it's getting very scary because of the level of violence and hate that is growing in the world. That's true. That is true. As I said the other day, I think this is a spiritual connection to who we are and what we do. For the first time in all these years, I've never thought about it, considered it, but it dropped down into my heart. I don't want to go down into Babylon and do business anymore. I really don't want to go out there and be in that traffic and that insanity and that atmosphere that's just changed since we've been here. I don't want to be there. I want to come out of her, my people. I never felt it. I've said it, but I never felt it like I have in the last week or so. It's time. It's time for something. And I can't do it alone. I just can't. It's not something I can do. Together, we could do anything. I mean, if he said in the days of Babel, when they were building a tower, the people are of one language, there's nothing they won't be able to do. Well, if we bring together the unity, who knows what could be done? And folks, I'll be honest with you. Here's an honest check. To the 3 or 4 people that give to this ministry, it's okay. Because that's what it is. That's what's been happening. It's never happened before, but it's been happening for a couple of years now, where it comes, it ebbs and flows. Every once in a while, we'll get this huge blessing for doing this on radio from people out there. But for the most part, it's very small. But for every widow's mite, I pray that God will bless you so mightily. So I can't have you think that what I'm doing here is earning money, that we're just getting so filthy rich off of what we do. No, when somebody gives $75 or somebody gives $100 or somebody gives $200 or $300, that comes at different times. And there are and have been for quite some time, about 4 or 5 people. When you go down and you look at our screen, it doesn't have 40,000 people or 10,000 people. It has 20 people, 30 people. So it says, I don't know. I was told different. But I do know this. I know that we have value and it's spiritual. And I know that we've been sowing spiritual things through the airwaves. And I just don't want people thinking somebody else is going to do it, because it's not the way it gets done. We have we are a very blessed people, but we're just like a remnant of a remnant of a remnant. And I need you to know that if you think in your mind somehow we're doing this because we're getting paid or we're getting rich from doing it, it's not true. It is not true. The 4 or 5 people that sow into this ministry on any given month, God bless them richly. I pray for richest blessings. I'm talking about an impossible work, aren't I? In a short time, does Jesus want us to do this? Time will tell. Time will tell. All right. So I'm going to leave it there. I love you guys. I appreciate you. And whatever the launching is going to be into whatever direction, I am thankful for today. And I pray that you're thankful today. And I hope you have a great day and a great weekend, and that God blesses you richly and God blesses you mightily. Just allow your spirit to embrace the abundant life that God has prepared for you. I have come that you might have life and have it more abundantly. He's talking about an internal quality of life. I honestly am saying to the people out there right now, no pressure. Just making sure the truth is known. That's it. Know the truth. And again, God bless you for what you do when you do it. And when those big seasons come, I grant that is also from the Lord. And that's the way it is. And I know that people have thought in their minds about certain things, and they thought this, they thought that. And I just think sometimes the devil is really at war with people that are really wanting to do something for the body of Christ. And, but I know that God's ready to do something great. I know he is. It's going to be great. And I hope you get the benefits of the work that we will be doing as you follow through in this ministry and do what you want. Now, again, I'm going to leave it with, if you desire to do something, and if we can help somehow for United Christian Charities, let us know. I'll get more information over the weekend. Let me see if Sue ever did write me back here. She's working, so probably not. No, she did not respond yet, so she's at work. Well, we'll see you then Sunday morning, 10 a.m. God bless everybody. Have a great day. We love you. Shalom. Take care.